You know, this has been a big topic lately. Help us understand the key factors that have led to some of the huge debts we're hearing about in the continent, and what IMF and the World Bank can do to reduce these huge burdens on the African countries.
Yeah, I think the debt problem has been there for a while now, and we'd hoped that when countries had reached the HIPC completion point, in reference here, I'm thinking about Zambia, things would have been sustained on a positive note and not being in this trap again. But look at where we're at. It's not only Zambia, it's a number of countries on the continent, and some are really so choked. So we saw that before the pandemic, the issue really was borrowing in order to support infrastructure projects and also to modernize. But during the pandemic, the debt burden went up in order for countries to sustain themselves and feed their citizens. So we saw that there was a shift rather in the motivation for borrowing, from borrowing to build infrastructure to borrowing to sustain and just be able to survive. Looking at what the IMF and the World Bank can do, I think we need to be thinking about long-term solutions to the problems that we have around debt. We've been at this conversation for way too long a time. I'll give an example in the case of Zambia, you know, in the 1970s, you know, the reduction of the price of copper on the global market and, you know, the shortages that we'd had coming forth and changes around procurement of oil. All those things had affected the country negatively, and we were on our knees with the debt problem. It's just 30 years plus 50 years. We're back at the same problem. So I think that the way the World Bank can help developing countries is not only looking at short-term solutions, but helping countries to come up with long-term solutions in how they're going to manage their debt effectively.
You know, Professor, very quickly, ordinary citizens are the ones bearing the brunt of these huge debts, and they're never included in these conversations. How can they be included so they know my government is taking this much debt and this is what they are promising, this is how they're going to pay this debt? Very briefly.
That's a very interesting question, Esther. It borders both on politics and administration. So the political aspect, we would need our citizens to be effective participants in what is happening in their countries. But we don't see that happening. Citizens only participate when there are elections taking place. Beyond the elections, it's like citizens aren't even there. So I think that the responsibility for citizens' engagement in the debt conversations lies at each country level. And then I think largely also citizens have to take keen interest and organize so that they can be able to contribute to these conversations. I think it doesn't have to be just a few individuals within civil society organizations taking part in this. We have to come up with a way in which we engage people bottom up.
Right.